like I said, we didn't know what we were in for. We really, I did anyway. I thought they were going to issue us weapons and we were going to be fighting our way off the plane. Like the way it made it sound, all the stuff you heard about it, but that didn't happen. It was a commercial flight, TWA, and when we got off that plane, it was an air conditioned, so we got off, and it was hotter than I ever felt in my life, and your hands and your lips, they were like you almost put oil on them. They were so slimy, and we were looking around, getting off the plane, and you see the guys dressed in khakis, ready to come back home or R&R, whatever they were doing. Some guys were hurt, bandaged up, slings, crutches, And like I said in the book, they looked at that plane like they were seeing God. They just couldn't wait to get on it, And they were looking at us and they say, "Oh boy, you guys don't know what you're in for." They gave us KP, but we didn't do it. The Mama Sons were doing it, and I'll never forget that. I was sitting out there watching them do the pots and pans, and it felt good for me not doing it for a change. And I'm looking at it. I look down on the floor, and there's this bug. I mean, it was huge. It had to be 18 inches, and I'm a plumber, so I know dimensions. So that had to be 18 inches in diameter, and it was cut in half with a machete. And they were going about their business like they just swatted a fly.
And we have to be real. This is about a real life that was impacted by the tragedies of war. And he's a friend of mine that I call him now, he's my brother. He's an extension of my family. And I'm proud to know him. I'm proud to talk of this very heroic and courageous story of a teenager who went to war for America. A lot of people forget that. These were boys doing a man's job. And we lost over 50,000 men because the president said go and fight for American values. And now remember, he was injured. He was injured in combat twice. And then his heart was broken at the loss of his cousin, who was, you gotta understand, they grew up like brothers. But this story is for new veterans. I recommend this book should be in high schools. This book should be out there for teenagers to know what the mindset was back in that time.
Born and raised in the Bronx, South Bronx. Well, I was kind of small, but it was fun because when I was born on Noble Avenue, which was further south. Then we moved up to 174th and Westchester Ave, Bronx River Avenue, and my father worked right next door at that time to a junkyard. Being 4 years old, I'd go to the junkyard and just, they had these things that flat, they looked like E's, the letter E's, piles of them, a pile of steel and junk, all over. And I would take them and fling them, So as a 4-year-old kid, it was a lot of fun, And I'd come home greasy, looked like I went to work, all proud of myself, Well, like I said, we had a huge family. I mean, my mother's mother had 21 kids, and most of them were in Italy at the time, and they started coming over, and we housed them till they all got on their feet. And that's when I met Tony, my cousin, who was the same age. We met, and that was it. We were just so close. It was like my brother. Never had a brother, I had a sister, but we grew up together, stayed together all the time. Always was with me. Wherever I went, he went with me. Whether I was playing ball or playing the drums, and we just loved being together. It was great. And we used to hang out a lot across the street. And we hang out these two big boulders that were there. It was like our little fort. Not only him and I, but the whole neighborhood kids. We had a little gang. And we hang out.
My name is John Deloge. I'm 73 years old. I live in Monroe, Connecticut. I served in Vietnam from February 1967 to February 1968. I came home during the middle of the Tet Offensive. Yeah, I was with John. I joined the recon platoon in the beginning of March of '67, and when John came to the platoon, I had already been there a couple of months. So I remember John right from, and his friend Eddie, I remember them right from the first day that they came into the platoon. I think, to wrap it up, I think it's a personal history, somebody being, telling it firsthand. And that's what, his love for his cousin really hits home for me. He was, so close to his cousin, and then to lose him like he did, and then to move into the last goodbye, I think is very admirable. And that's why the way I got out of it. That's what I took out of it. It was really confusing. One of the things in Vietnam that you got to remember, we were all kids, and the communication that they gave us was very lax. What we were going to do, all we knew was we were going out here and we were going so far, and that was it. And when we got hit, it was like, boom. I was in back of this guy Craig, and he went down right away. And then the rest of the day was chaos. There was shooting, firing, and as John said, they called in airstrikes. And the only thing that got the enemy away, I believe, were the airstrikes.
So I said, John, I couldn't believe it. I said, John, this book, I had to call you. The book impelled me to call you. I'm like blown away. The book was so engrossing and so great. And it gives me chills just thinking about it now, because I got chills talking to him about the book. I never knew. I mean, I knew he was in Nam. I knew he got shot. I knew about Tony, but I didn't know that he got the Silver Star for his actions in battle. I'm like in the midst of a hero here, and I worked with you, and you're my cousin, and reading what he went through in the Bronx with Tony, and this amazingly close relationship that he had with his cousin. Now I do know Tony, because that's how well written the book is. And that's what I expressed. I wrote it in my Amazon review. I wrote that, I've read lots of books. I'm a reader. I love reading. But so many times you're reading books and, they get a little boring, and you got to go back a few sentences and you forgot what you read. You just start daydreaming. Not with John's book. John is telling you everything about his life in the Bronx and his experiences in Vietnam. You are actually there. You feel the mud on your feet when he's stuck in the hooch and they're mortaring his camp,
When I graduated in June of '65, I got drafted in November of '66. And we knew we were getting it. We knew it was going to, at that time when everybody was getting drafted. So we knew it was coming. My cousin got his before me, 1 month before me. But he was 6 months older than me. So I figured I had some time. But I didn't. As soon as I turned 19, they sent me my letter. So we both got drafted basically almost the same time. He went to Fort Gordon, I went to Fort Jackson. And we corresponded. But he had this, prior to us going in there, we were hanging out, and when we got our licenses, we were driving. Actually, it was on Thanksgiving Day in 1965, where we were just cruising around Fordham, just him and me, and we listened to the radio, and all they were talking about on the news was Vietnam, this, Vietnam, that, and all that. So we kind of figured we were heading that way. And it was just, like I said, Thanksgiving Day after dinner, we went for a ride around Fordham. So we were in the car. He had his car. He just got his car. He was so proud of having that car. And it was a '63 Pontiac LeMans, blue. And I said to him, Tony, what do you want to do? And this is after listening to the radio. And he said, Johnny, I want to go home. Let's go home. I said, I think I get teared up. This is the last Thanksgiving that we spent with my family. So I said, okay, Tony, if that's what you want, let's go home. So that's what we did. And before the next Thanksgiving, and he had, after that, let me back up a minute. After that, he was never the same. It was almost like he had a feeling that something bad was going to happen to him, and he showed it. He showed it the way he was, the way he spoke, the way he acted. It was never the same anymore. But prior to the next Thanksgiving, we were both drafted. So I'm saying to myself, geez, Tony might have been right. That was the last Thanksgiving we were going to spend with our families for a while. So then he ends up getting killed the following July 26th, 67. And I happened to bring him home.
I was basically reliving what we all went through as a recon infantryman in Vietnam. It just brought back what we had all shared in the field and what we had gone through. Some of it was pleasant, some of it wasn't. John's book explains the life of an infantryman, and especially those of us that served in long-range recon, of what it was like to be in the jungles of Vietnam and what it was like to live from day to day and what it was like to depend on the man who was to your left and to your right, in front of you and back of you. Because we were a team, and without a team, you did not survive.
I read John's book, and I was, after knowing John all these years, I never really knew his story. And when he put this book out, I was like, you got to be kidding me. I got the book right away. He signed it for me, The Last Goodbye. It's an amazing story. It puts me actually into his childhood. It's great. Into his childhood, following him as he went along with his cousin Tony, and all the way to joining the military, and his experience, in recon is just totally amazing to know that he did what he did and survived all this. And this is the nicest guy in the world, quiet, low-key, and he always has your back, always had my back.
Well, this is the book that I felt I had to write, called The Last Goodbye. And this is the vision I had of my cousin. The night that I found out he was killed, he came to say goodbye. I was alone, and it was, like I said, 2 other guys there that were sick. It was getting late, and I was just laying in bed under the sheet, just had my underwear on, and it was dark. And there was 2 lights. One light outside one of the screen doors on one side, and the other light on the other side of the screen door, but they were dim light. So it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. I heard footsteps outside the barracks, which was screened in, and I see a silhouette of a soldier standing outside the screen door, and I looked and I said, well, who's this guy? So I looked and I saw a soldier walking in, dressed in khakis. Couldn't see who he was, because it was dark, and he had the cap on. And then I sat up because I noticed he was walking towards me, and he didn't stop until he got to the foot of my bed, right here. And then I looked up, and I saw it was Tony, and I just said Tony, and not as a question, as a real, like Tony. I was here. He was there, in the flesh, clear as day. He wasn't a ghost. I couldn't see through him. And he just smiled, didn't say a word. Stretched out his hand, and I stretched my hand like he wanted to shake my hand, which we did. And then he just turned around, walked out the same door. Door slammed shut, and he just disappeared. And I said, he just couldn't leave this world without coming to say goodbye. And that's why I call it, The Last Goodbye.
If you had a child in the war, or a husband, you feel what they must have went through, or what families are going through today with their children, and not knowing what's going to happen to them, if they're going to come home or not. And I just feel what he felt when I read the story. So when he tells these stories, I can't. I put myself there in their feelings, and it's just so sad. And that's what I feel about it. I can't imagine what's going through these poor 18 and 19-year-old guys minds, you know, seeing their friends getting blown apart like that. You know, like he said, he was talking to one about getting married, and then the next day he's dead. It paid off. He was able to get all these emotions and feelings out, and so I'm proud of him, all the work he's done for it, and for other people too that was there with him. It brought out things. It helped them to talk more about what happened with them, and he's talked to so many of his friends that he hasn't talked to, and family he hasn't talked to in years because of this book.
So, but they chose me for an escort to bring Tony home. And my sister got a hold of Washington and said that I was there. I was a close relative, and they got a hold of me. But I didn't know I was going to take him home. I didn't know he was dead yet. And they come out and got me out in the boonies, and they told me what I was going to do. That I was going to be an escort. And at the time, I said, "Oh, I was kind of happy because my first wife was 5 months pregnant." I said, "Give me a chance to get home." You know, like I said, I didn't know it was Tony. And another guy come, and I didn't know this guy. It was some sergeant or something. And he asked me, "John, do you have any relatives here?" And I said, "Yeah, I got about 4 cousins." He said, "Well, it might be one of your relatives." Then I started really thinking. I said, "Man, don't let it." I loved my relatives, but I didn't. Tony was the closest thing to me, so I said, "Please don't let it be Tony." Right. So then, meanwhile, I had that letter in the back of my head, that missing in action.
He's a kid from the Bronx, and he was in the worst possible experience that a young man can be in, and that is true Mortal Kombat, not a video game. And he did it. And he did it from the beginning, almost from the beginning, in the most heartbreaking way, that his very best friend, who was his first cousin, killed in Vietnam. So they did everything together. In the book, there are references that may be esoteric to some, but places in the Bronx, being a young teenager, being a kid, being in America, being safe. The thing about him, he's a massive man who worked out most of his life with weights, and he still has an incredible body, like this and that, even though he has illnesses and he has, when you read the book, you'll learn he did not come home in any way unscathed. I think the book is really good. It's truthful and it's natural. It's not over-edited. This guy, he didn't go to Oxford. He's extremely articulate, mostly literate. He chooses his words. There's a voice. The voice is totally authentic. And it goes from family life and home life, Italian family, the whole Arthur Avenue connection and everything, to an Asian country where people are trying to kill him. And you see those pictures in the book, with him with the huge caliber machine gun and all that. And as he says, he was taught to kill. But he's an extremely gentle man. And that's what affects him. He's a massive guy, man's man, physical, this and that, But he has a sensitivity that you see in the writing. And it's a great story, and he tells it well. You can't ask for more than that.
I I couldn't have been more fortunate, to survive that and all the crap that we went through. So I was with a good group of guys. Oh, it takes you back into Nam. A lot of the stuff that I became really close to John after Ronnie Elza got killed, which he explained in his book. Ronnie was the gunner in the other half of the team, and I took Ronnie's gun. If you don't know about the Nam, you damn sure know about it after reading his book. John was a pretty meticulous soldier. Yeah, he wrote the book that way. We were going back and forth when he blew the did I remember this? I remember something this way. He remembered it a different way. So we went back and forth for, God, I don't know, months, talking about different scenarios, what happened, what happened on certain dates, how this event happened, how it played out. And we've been back and forth. And, he was always meticulous about his stuff, the way he carried himself as a soldier and as a person. And it surely shows up in the way he wrote the book.
It was a hard time because they were all cried out. They had no more tears to shed. My aunt was she just lost her life that day. My uncle too, and I had to look at their faces for 3 days because they were in the front row, and my wife was there with them, and staring at their faces for 3 days. And I held my composure. And the last day, when we were ready to leave, everybody left. Frankie left. I was there alone. And I turned around to the casket, I leaned on it, the flag was over it, and everything just came out.
It really breaks down how a young man could be uprooted out of his surroundings and leave his family at such a young age and go into a whole different environment, scared, not knowing if they're coming back and hearing stories. And when they finally got to Vietnam, as he describes in the book, the air, the climate, the people, how everything was different, and the heat, the mosquitoes. I remember him just talking about the bugs in the book, how you go from, playing stickball in the Bronx with your friends, and next thing you know, you're in a whole nother atmosphere. It's got to be pretty challenging, scary for, a young boy like that at 18 years old, 17, 18, I think they were at the time.
I read his book. It's really neat, it's good, well written. I was married to a lady that's a school teacher, and she teaches writing and reading and all that stuff. She read the book cover to cover, and she said, this is very, very well written and well explained. Says this guy knows what he's doing writing this book. Yeah, it brings it back just like it was yesterday. You're never going to forget all of that, Well, Recon's a whole new outfit. Everybody's gone, So until John called me about 6 or 8 months ago or a year ago, he called me. He found my name in one of those Purple Heart books. I said, John, I didn't know anybody survived that. You're the first person that called me, but I did talk to Charles House. I knew he survived it, but I called Charles House to tell him that I talked to John, and he had already passed away with heart problems.
Well, the camaraderie amongst combat veterans, similar to John, is a very strong one. I would describe it as we depend on each other to have our back, and we in turn have theirs. John's book was, I felt, a very simple read, an extremely accurate description from the day of that he entered the military until the time that he actually got out.
I spent my 20th and 21st birthday over there, so it was quite an eye-opener after being away from it for so long to read it and to go back and think about. It was pretty much exactly what I remembered after I read it. So it was quite a reminder of what we went through. it was true to what was written. Everything that was written was right on the mark as far as our experiences. And if you really, really want to know how it was over there, I would recommend reading this book because it's pretty much the way it was.
He said, John, he said, right there, he said, they'll kill you dead. He said, they got a 50 cal right in front of us and they're waiting for us to make the next move. So now Murphy comes up and he says to me, Pete, he says, go sit up over there, start giving some firepower, so we can pull on line. It's okay. Now there was no trees, no thick trees there. So I really couldn't take any cover behind anything. So I set my gun up. So we're firing. Next thing I know, my machine gun jammed. And Parker and me, we got the rod, we're trying to free the bullet. And it wouldn't free, man, no matter what we did. And meanwhile, we're getting shot at, and we're down low on the ground. And I said, this ain't working, man. And so my gun, I said, I got to do something. So now they happened to they got Canuck out. And I was laying down with the medic, and I was talking to him. He said he was cold. He said, I can't feel my legs. I'm cold. I can't move. I said, all right, look. I took my shirt off. I covered him up. I said, look, don't worry. You're going to be okay. And I just stood up. I didn't think about anything after that. I just stood up. I went over. I grabbed Canuck by his armpits, and I just picked him right up, and I laid him down. I brought him out, laid him down. Bullets in my head. And I said, we got to get him out of here. So I'm ready to carry. I got up, go to get him. I went to him by his head, bent down, picking him up, and then all of a sudden, as I went to get him, boom, I felt something like my leg exploded. I got hit, and I went right down, and the medic was maybe 5 feet, and I said, Doc, I'm hit. I was sitting up, and I said, Doc, I'm hit. He said, okay. And I looked down. I only looked down once. My whole leg was covered with blood. I was bleeding like a pig. And he didn't come, the medic. And so I said, okay, I got to get out of here because I might be in a firing lane or something. Sniper's bullet, sights. So I laid down and I started to roll. He still didn't come. All I kept seeing was the grass in the sky. It was a clear day. Grass in the sky over and over again. I finally hit these. Anyway, I kept my composure. I never panicked or anything like that. And he started coming around, and then they put me by the dust-off area, and they loaded me on the chopper. And when I got on there, this medic comes on, and he was in a sling. And he said, "How you doing?" I said, "I'm okay." I didn't know. I couldn't know who he was. And he said, "I'm the guy who helped you." He says, "I'm the guy who came and dressed you up." So I reached my hand. I thanked him. I don't even know his name. He saved my life. I don't even know his name. And there was a stretcher above me with blood stains. And I said, "Who's that?" So they looked at it. It was Snyder. So Snyder expired. He died. So then the medic came with the ride, and he was in a sling. He said he told me after he helped me, he got shot. Okay, I mean they were getting shot. Well, there was a lot of guys got wounded. Even the battalion medic got shot in the head. Howard Christel, he was helping somebody. He got shot right in the head. We lost. We were 17 that day, counting the lieutenant. And out of the 17 of the recon, just recon, 3 died, and 11 wounded. Okay. And so that was a really bad day. And they kept fighting after I left. They were still fighting. But I tell you what, I took a look. When we first got there, that jungle was so thick, we couldn't see anything. When I looked down, that chopper took off, and I looked down, it looked like a bulldozer went through it. That's how many bullets were going out, back and forth. And they even called in an airstrike as we were pinned down. Got to tell you that. And I was praying. I said, "Bring those babies closer, man," because we walked into a mess. We really did, And I didn't think we were going to make it out of there, to tell you the truth. But when those jets came, boy, that was music to my ears. And they were dropping them rockets, and I said, bring them closer. I didn't care. I said, bring them closer. But anyway, they took me up, and I went to the 90th replacement, not the 97th medevac station, which was like a MASH unit. And that's how that day went.
This is the book of books. The Last Goodbye is a great book. It's a great read. I recommend that it would be in schools as well, to teach our teenagers of a past that they need to know about. Because without a past, you can't have a future.
This is like a book that was written from the time he started in Vietnam. He took notes. He went over all these experiences he had with his cousin, and the main adjective is gripping. It just grips you, that book.
It's real. It's real, and it's sad. It's real, and whoever has experienced this needs to read it. And like John said, they need to tell their story.
The guy didn't give up. He went back in and carried out. He's that guy. He carried out his wounded soldiers, his wounded guys. He carried them out, and then he gets shot. But the guy never gave up, and that's how John is.
His vision of seeing his cousin after his cousin had been killed. I don't believe personally in ghosts or visions or this and that. It's only important to me that it was his vision. And it is the driving force of The Last Goodbye behind the book.
I really feel that my cousin had a lot to do with me surviving, because there were incidents in the book that I didn't go into, that only through divine intervention am I standing here talking to you all, because there's no way that I should be here. And I want to thank Tony, because I know he had a lot to do with it. Rest in peace.